today is Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about the court. So yesterday we talked about Congress, and what Congress does is they make new laws. Today, what court does is they make the law. So what they do is they solve conflicts, and then the president is they make the laws happen, really. And so, Marissa, if you scroll back to the schedule, so we're able to see what we're doing today. So first, we're going to talk with me about what really court does and how it works. And then we're going to be reading a book with Marissa on court. And then we're going to have a special guest who is actually in the Zoom room right now. So we're like on schedule. Let's go to the first part. And so right now we're on Supreme Court. So if you probably can tell, we were at the Supreme Court place, but yesterday we were talking and we were at the Capitol. And if you want to know, the Capitol is right behind those trees. And the White House is actually very far away from us, just because the Capitol and the Supreme Court House are very close, but the White House is very far away from where we are right now. So, but anyway, let's pull back up to the picture so I can talk a little. Marissa, do you mind pulling up the picture so we're able to talk about it? Okay. So the Supreme Court, there are 9 judges, and I have 3 examples of what the Supreme Court and what they do and stuff. So what the Supreme Court does is they try to solve like problems for America, the US. And there are 3 ways in my mind right now what I have. First one, if someone disagrees with a law that's been made, they can hire a lawyer, and the lawyer can argue with the court just to see if they can change the law. Another way, so this way is a little more for local courts, so like the Mountain View courts, the Santa Clara court. If you go to jail, you have to have a court hearing to see if you are going to go to jail or if you're freed because it wasn't actually you, the one who did the crime. And the third way is if you disagree with a court and you go to court with them, you go to court and you try to argue to say, I want to change the law. And it's made official, the law has been changed, but then someone else disagrees, it can go higher and higher and higher until it gets to the Supreme Court, if that happens. And so just like Congress, there are the president, so the Congress, there is local, Congress takes like the America, there's also local ones like the City Council. Some of the Mountain View City Council, which handles more like Mountain View problems, but the Congress hires and then the Congress makes the laws, and the City Council makes the laws. But like the Supreme Court, it's very similar in Mountain View. So like the Supreme Court tries to solve problems in the U.S., there like local courts, they try to solve problems for cities. So for instance, Mountain View. So like last time there was forums like that. So now we have shown a video. I have made a video a few weeks ago on us at the Santa Clara courthouse. And it's just like a courthouse. It's a pretty common courthouse. So Marissa, can you show the video so I can explain a little more? Right now at Superior Court Santa Clara Courthouse, and technically if you have a problem with a local city council or something, or you come with the police, you can hire a lawyer to convince a judge to fix something, stop something, or do something like that.
You're back on, Mary.
Mary, you're back on.
There are a lot of flies out here.
Yeah, there's a lot of flies that are pinching me. So as you can see by that video, Santa Clara Court is this kind of a courthouse, like I said. And now I'm gonna take it over to Marissa again to show another video on our searching for our library book on the courthouse. So Marissa, do you mind showing that? Right now I'm at the Mountain View Library and I'm about to go and check out some books. The library is officially open, so you're allowed to go inside, and I'm really excited to go in, so let's get in. And we're on aisle 523 to 48, and yeah.
Okay, and that takes us to our book for today. Now, we have about 5 minutes to explore this book, so you'll notice that I'm going to jump around just a little bit. This book is about one of our Supreme Court justices, Sonia Sotomayor. It is written by Jonah Winter and illustrated by Edel Rodriguez. And we're going to be reading it in both English and Spanish. And like I said, I'll jump around a little bit to make sure that we have time to speak with our special guest. You never know what can happen. Sometimes the most beautiful moonflower blossoms in an unexpected place. On a chain link fence, near broken glass, next to an abandoned building, watered by someone whose name you might not even know. Uno nunca sabe lo que puede suceder. A veces, la más hermosa campanilla puede florecer en un lugar inesperado. Una cerca metálica con vidrios rotos alrededor, junto a un edificio abandonado, regada por alguien cuyo nombre a lo mejor se desconoce. And sometimes the most amazing person blossoms in just such a place as well. So it was with a little girl named Sonia. Her blossoming began with her mother's love and hard work. Y a veces, la más asombrosa persona también puede florecer en tal lugar. Así le sucedió a una niñita llamada Sonia. Su florecer empezó con el amor y el arduo trabajo de su madre. Oh, how Sonia's mother loved her. She worked night and day and night as a switchboard operator, just so she could pay for Sonia's and her brother's private schools. She had never made it past the 3rd grade when she was a girl, but she sure wanted her children to. Ay, como quería a Sonia su madre. La señora trabajaba noche y día y noche, como operadora de teléfono, solo para poder pagarles escuelas privadas a Sonia y a su hermano. Su educación no pasó del 3er grado, pero como quería que sus hijos sí lo lograran. Sonia loved the world her mother gave her. Her mother and father were from Puerto Rico, and Sonia grew up surrounded by the tastes and sounds of Puerto Rican culture. A favorite meal was Spanish rice and beans, and she loved the big family parties where merengue music filled the air. Arriba! Sonia adoraba el mundo que su mamá le dio. Su mamá y su papá eran de Puerto Rico y Sonia se crió rodeada por los sabores y sonidos de la cultura puertorriqueña. Una comida favorita era arroz y habichuelas y adoraba las fiestas familiares donde la música de merengue llenaba el ambiente. ¡Arriba! Sonia did become a judge, and a good judge too. She was known for working very hard and always being very prepared for every trial. She was also known for having no patience for lawyers who weren't prepared. You better not mess with Judge Sonia. Sonia llegó a ser juez, y una buena juez por demás. Era reconocida por trabajar muy arduamente y por estar siempre muy bien preparada para todos los juicios. También lo era por su falta de paciencia con los abogados que no se preparaban. Mejor es que no se metieran con la juez Sonia. President Obama had decided to nominate Sonia to the best job a judge could possibly have, to be a Supreme Court justice. Justice is a fancy word for judge. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the nation. Supreme Court decisions help shape the law of the land. This was huge. Gulp. There had never been a Latin American on the Supreme Court. How strange this was. There are so many people of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Cuban descent, adding color to the great garden that is America. Why shouldn't all these people have someone who understands their lives on the Supreme Court? She was one of the most respected judges in the country. She was the perfect choice. El presidente Obama había decidido nominar a Sonia para el mejor empleo que un juez puede desear, para ser magistrada. Magistrada es una palabra elegante para juez, de la Corte Suprema. La Corte Suprema es el máximo tribunal en la nación. Las decisiones de la Corte Suprema ayudan que dan cuerpo a la ley del país. Esto era enorme, traga. Nunca había habido un latinoamericano en la Corte Suprema. ¡Qué raro! Tantas personas de ascendencia mexicana, puertorriqueña, dominicana y cubana añaden colorido a ese gran jardín que es América. ¿Por qué no podría haber en la Corte Suprema alguien que entendiera sus vidas? Ella se encontraba entre los jueces más respetados en el país. Ella era la selección perfecta. So that is how Sonia came to be, one of our 9 Supreme Court justices. And in the news this week, in memory of her mother, which I had a picture, where did it go? Who actually passed away this week. And so just a quick moment to take a look and to remember Sonia's mom, who worked so hard, Celina Baez Sotomayor. So one of our amazing justices, Sonia Sotomayor. All right, giving it back over to Mary to introduce our special guest.
So our special guest is Judge Nichols. I'm just going to introduce him a little bit. Judge Nichols he used to work at the local Santa Clara, he used to work at the Santa Clara place, Judge Courthouse, and he used to be on the Mountain City Council, which was quite amazing. And Judge Nichols, would you like to say a little more about yourself?
Thank you very much, Mary, and thank you, Miss Marissa, and Mr. Chris, Miss Renee, for inviting me here today. I grew up in the peninsula here and went to local schools. My father passed away when I was in high school, and like everybody here, I just worked, through college and law school. But we moved to, my wife and I, who was here but didn't want to be seen, she didn't think she was dressed for the occasion, is retired from Castro School. So she taught as a school teacher. My son is a high school teacher in Brazil. My daughter is a high school teacher in the Sacramento Valley. So I was a lawyer and a judge here for many years, and I still work with lawyers and parties to try to solve problems.
Okay, so my first question is, why did you become a judge?
Well, everybody has their own reason. When I was on the city council and mayor here, and I was chair of the Intergovernmental Council, who was all the mayors and board of supervisors, some people suggested that I might want to run for the state legislature. Other people said that I should build a big law firm. You don't get rich on the city council, and I was practicing law in the courts all the time. But I was teaching at night law school, and I like the life of scholarship, study, and helping people. And certainly, as a lawyer, I tried to do that in all kinds of law cases, civil rights, criminal law, including a man who was on death row. We serious cases, family law cases, and so forth. And so when I had an opportunity to present my background and credentials to the governor of California to seek appointment and go through that rigorous process, I was ready to do that. And I became a judge when I was 42 years old.
Oh, thank you for that answer. My next question is, what should kids know about court? And my other thing is, try to keep it just like in general answers to 15 seconds, so we have enough time for the audience to ask questions.
The trial courts in California and all the states deal with people at the first level. The Supreme Court doesn't see the people who are hurting, in pain, who have problems. They don't listen to witnesses. They don't sort things out in that way. They are the Supreme Court, though. Of course, we respect it and honor the rulings. And so our courts, when mother and father have fights and disputes, sometimes about when they separate and where should the child live, our courts deal with those. When parents are charged with neglecting their children or doing bad things, we decide those cases. When people are injured in auto accident cases, or when a building falls down and people are injured, or when people have business controversies or neighbors fight, people like me deal with those issues. Or when someone dies and the family can't agree on what happens, we deal with those cases. Or when a person has a mental health issue and the state says they should be locked up for their own protection. No, there's a judge and jury to protect. So those are some of the kinds of things. Also, all the cases involving land and protecting our environment. For 15 years, I heard those cases. So I won't go on, but those are the kinds of cases that do come before us, as well as lawsuits against cities and between the government and citizens.
So my next question is, what's the hardest part about your job?
One part is that it's a great privilege. I was a judge for 35 years and I still volunteer half my time for the federal and state courts and so forth. It is, for a sociable person like myself, it isolates you. You don't go, if you do the job right, you don't go be buddies with the lawyers or the people who are involved in court, you withdraw considerably. It's a job where you make the decision all by yourself. No one else makes it for you. And you hope and pray that it will be the best decision that can be made. It's hard when one side is not prepared. You cannot be a lawyer for one side or the other. And it's hard when you think there could be a solid case, but the party cannot present actual evidence. Of course, today we read in the papers that people say all sorts of things, but it's not always based on evidence, people who know things. So my job was to try to sort that out. And that was a challenge, but I loved every moment of it.
And my last question is, do you have one interesting story for us?
Well, I was thinking about that. Thank you, Mary. There are just hundreds of cases, but I do recall a young Latina woman who was 18 years old. She had her very first job at a big store. She stocked the shelves and she worked on the cash register. And one day she was taken by the security people into a room and they said, "You stole money from the store." She said, "Oh no, I didn't. And they said, "If you just confess, we'll fire you, but we won't have you arrested." No, I want to speak with my mother and father. So they put handcuffs on her and dragged her out in front of everybody. Oh, Letitia, what a thief, what a thief. Well, she was entitled to a lawyer, and the public defender represented her. And by going and getting the records of the store, they found that the woman who was the supervisor in the back room was taking the cash and stuffing it into her undergarments. She was the thief, and everybody was willing to let this 18-year-old go and go to jail. Well, the case was dismissed, and I presided over the jury trial, and a jury found that that was a false arrest. Now, there was not a lot of money that was awarded, but those are very important cases because this young woman learned that the law was there to protect everyone. And I felt very good about that result.
And now, does any of you want to ask any of the questions to Judge Nichols?
We have a question in the chat from Evan. Evan's question is, are most judgeships lifetime appointments?
Thank you, Evan, for that question. No, in the federal court under our Constitution, the trial judges and the appeals judges are appointed for life during good behavior. In California, and in some states, judges can actually run as Republican or Democrat. I have no party preference. I am neutral. In our state, it's a merit system. So when I applied to be a judge, I sent a resume, including letters from many judges, everybody I'd been in trial with, so they could appraise whether I was an honest and capable person. And then ultimately, the governor appointed me from many applicants. And then every 6 years, the voters could decide to kick me out or not. But I worked hard, and no one ever challenged me at the election polls, and so I served a whole career. Also, you should know, Evan, that there's a separate constitutional commission. So my decisions could be reviewed by 3 justices in the higher court or 7 in our Supreme Court, which happened. And then also, if I did something bad or unethical or improper, any citizen we would hand them a pamphlet. Here's how to complain about Judge Nichols up at the Constitutional Commission. I did a bad thing, they could throw me off the court. So there are lots of protections for the public because we have a great deal of power, but it must be used within the law and wisely. Thank you, Evan, for that good question.
If anyone else has a question, you can raise your hand. You can put it into the chat. It is a wonderful opportunity to have Judge Nichols here to share his experience and wisdom. So get your minds thinking about what you might want to ask.
Don't be embarrassed. I find it happens. I have college students come in, it's their big moment, and they just freeze. It happens. Oh, you're welcome, Evan. I would encourage anybody, if you are a student and you are thinking of going to law school and someone tells you there are too many lawyers, that's not true. There are never enough good, upright, ethical people. There may be lawyers, a lot of lawyers for big companies, so think about the little guy. Think how you can help and be available. You can make a living and you can devote yourself, but if you're a student, you should know it's a lifetime enterprise. You don't become a lawyer and stop learning. That's not the way school teachers are or anybody else. You're learning your whole life, and it makes it a very exciting life.
We have another question in the chat from Mira, and the question is, what makes a good judge?
Well, boy, that's a big question. In a way, you have to answer it for yourself. But I think you have to have an interest in people and their welfare, and recognize that when people are in court, they're often good people at the very most difficult and challenging time of their lives. So I had a little saying to myself, remember that even a person who acts like a jerk, is angry, upset, perhaps disrespectful, is entitled under the law to a fair trial. There could be a kernel of truth there. Not every smooth talker is telling the truth, I assure you. And not every person who's nervous and upset is telling a lie. So you have to be able to not make snap judgments. Mira, you have to listen to everything that is said. And I hope that in your schools, I believe you are learning what are called critical thinking skills, learning to listen, learning to weigh what seems most probably accurate to you, and not believing things just because somebody else says it. God's given you a brain and you use it. I'm sure you will. Thank you, Mira.
Judge Nichols, what you say reminds me of the quote that's in front of the building. I don't know if you want to take a moment to explain. I don't know if I can zoom in so they can see it.
Just read it, Mr. Chris, there, and we'll.
Oh, as I'm walking up under top of the Supreme Court, equal justice under the law.
Well, that's right. I will tell you that just to go further on that, some people come to court and they say, Judge Nichols, they want to show that they're a better person. I'm a better person than the other person. That's really not our job description. I'm not a priest. I'm not a therapist. We try to help people. We try to assist them in getting through the process. We have lots of people to help people, guide them through the process. But it has to be, the scales of justice mean something. If a wealthy person comes into court, I can't put a little extra weight on their side. No. And so people, they're not always happy with the decisions you make. It is, some people have said that a judge, when the judge rules, makes a very temporary friend and a permanent enemy. You have to have a bit of a thick skin because frankly, losers complain a lot. They'll go on the blog, on the web, they'll say you're corrupt, they'll pick at you. One person tried to murder me. You know, it's people get upset, shot his way into the courthouse and tried to gun me down. So I'm not saying that happens often, but it did in 1992. And I'll tell you, that person is in prison today. But because we want the courthouse to be open to people, but we're alert that some people are distressed and they frankly don't want to follow the law. So thank you for that question.
We have a question in the chat from Anika, which is, how did you become a judge?
Thank you, Anika. I had been practicing law first with a partner who became a judge and then by myself. And during those years, I was living in Mountain View and I was on the city council and mayor. So a lot of my time was sent away from the office. But I was in court most days representing people in family cases, people in criminal cases, people in small business, people in criminal cases and so forth with problems. And at one point, and then I was teaching night law school. So it was the challenge of teaching students while working full time. I frankly had good relations with the federal and state judges before whom I tried cases, presented cases, and people said nice things and encouraged me to consider applying to be a judge. So on the question of how did I do that, I wrote a letter to the governor of California. The governor has what's called an appointment secretary, whose job is to help evaluate the hundreds of people who apply in 58 counties to be judges. I received a questionnaire in the mail. I've never met the governor. I filled it out. Give me 10 trials you had, list all your opponents, list any law review articles, list everything about you, list every place you've lived, check out every address precisely from dates and so forth. And then I sent it off to California, the governor. Then I went around to about 100 lawyers and judges, people who before I had appeared in court, and I gave them that confidential questionnaire. And I said, if you believe that I'm a person of merit who would serve the public, I would be grateful if you considered writing a letter. Many did and sent me copies. It was very humbling. And then there were probably about 15 applicants, including senior prosecutors and others. One day, February 2nd, 1984, the governor of California called me at my office on the telephone to tell me that I had been appointed to the court. And I began service on February 24th, 1984. That sounds like 100 years ago to a fifth grader. It's a long time ago. And I've never regretted a moment of that service. I've served on the State Judicial Council that makes rules for our court for the state. every day was a day I felt very grateful to have had the opportunity to serve. A classmate of mine in law school served on the member of the California Supreme Court. Many of us of that generation went into public service. I had spent a weekend with Dr. Martin Luther King at a church conference. I had been in class the day that our president was shot dead in Dallas, Texas. I had been into the practice of law when Bobby Kennedy was killed and Dr. Martin Luther King was slain. And I represented clients during the Vietnam War. The draft board wanted to send them to prison. So these were, and these were experiences that I had that all led me to think I might be able to do a good job. Thank you for that question. I don't want to take all your time. You're in charge, Mary.
So thank you, Judge Nichols. I think that might be all the time we have for today. So thank you, Judge Nichols, just for being here today and just to take some of your time out to ask us, tell me and audience some answers to some questions I'm dying to know. So just thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your leadership on this, Mary, and to the Mountain View Public Library and to your mom and dad and for the students who checked in and their parents. It's not a matter of the number. Each of you is a nugget of gold. And I'm very glad that you've taken the opportunity to let me share time with you. Thanks again. Goodbye now.
Thank you.